everyone. Welcome to the Bluecast live show. Hoping to do this every Friday. The idea here is to talk about this week's gaming news, a little bit what have I been doing in gaming, like what I've been playing, and then maybe some other like editorial stuff, just based on what's going on in the news, maybe some of my opinions on things, retrospectives. So for this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about Starfield because I've jumped into that. I have my own hot takes on it. Let's see, talk about some news like with the Switch 2, which is pretty interesting. What was some other news? I think that's mainly it when it comes to news. I'm going to talk about some other games I've been playing this week, a lot of beat 'em ups also. And I've been using the ROG Ally a lot more, so some more updates on that. But yeah, to get started, see, what have I been playing this week? Quite a bit, actually. So, I've been playing a lot more with the ROG Ally because it's like easy throughout each day as I'm doing stuff and I want to sit down and do something or just relax. I can just use the ROG Ally. It pretty much keeps me from just scrolling on my phone, which I've already minimized to a degree, and I have tried to add in other activities. Lately, I've been building Gunpla a lot less than normal, just because I have a whole lot and I'm trying to skill down, building all the time. So I'm adding in, during my free time where I would build, adding in the video games a lot more. So that's allowed me to get into a bunch of different things. So let's see. Okay, so that oh man, I forget the name of the game. There's some Sea of Stars, I think it was called. It was just recently released, made by the developers of The Messenger. So I started to get back into The Messenger because I never beat it before. And it just kind of reminded me why. It's not a bad game, it's too much of what I have done before. And I don't know. It's fun, but I'll try to get into it some more. But I'm still on that beat 'em up kick, no pun intended. And I guess out of all the beat 'em ups I've been playing, when I've been playing recent ones, in terms of recently been playing ones from the 80s, recent ones that came out, and you can kind of see where some of them didn't age too well, and where some of them did. So, for instance, I think like the Final Fight games have aged pretty well. Double Dragon, not so much. The older Double Dragons. Streets of Rage has aged pretty well. And then there's something else that I've kind of realized that was pretty interesting. So, within the beat 'em up genre, there's actually what would you call it? A spectrum of the genre of beat 'em ups. And I think they go from like the Kunio-kun style beat 'em ups to the Final Fight style beat 'em ups. So that would be like, Kunio-kun would be like, the River City Ransom. And then on the other end would be, Final Fight. That's similar to like Street Fighter. And so it's an interesting crossover because I think what happened was Double Dragon was kind of made based off of the Kunio-kun style beat 'em ups. But then some other developers, like Sega behind Streets of Rage, Capcom behind Final Fight, wanted to take that and kind of add that layer of Street Fighter on top. And Final Fight was the original Street Fighter 2, before Street Fighter 2. So you can kind of see an interesting evolution, and then it kind of branched off where then there's these different beat 'em ups. There's one that are more in the style of a Kunio-kun, and a lot of the Kunio-kun ones they have more RPG elements. There's more like purchasing things, whereas the other types of beat 'em ups, like from Final Fight, Streets of Rage, are about performing moves and stuff like that. I mean, there's really a lot of similarity, but there's little details that make them a bit different. So the Double Dragon that came out in 2012, I went through and beat it again this past week. Double Dragon Neon. I gotta say it's one of my favorite games. I would say it's in my like top 10 or 20. I need to nail down that list sometime, but I would say it's a top 10 or 20 games. It's amazing. Everything about it though. It's like not only the gameplay, but the music, the style, the production value. Everything is excellent. And it's interesting because it was way forward taking what was originally a Kunio-kun style beat 'em up, like Double Dragon, and making it more of a Final Fight style beat 'em up. Then WayForward went and made a Kunio-kun style beat 'em up, River City Girls. Arc System Works published it. Arc System Works has published the recent Double Dragon, but they made the Double Dragon more of a Kunio-kun style beat 'em up. Anyway, it's just strange and interesting how that works. It's almost like, those WayForward and Arc System Works are like and it's not just Arc System Works, or it's maybe developers, personnel from different companies that have kind of went back and forth. It's almost like within this bubble of beat 'em ups, there's the Kunio-kun style, there's the Final Fight style, and it's really cool that we're getting all these different types. And I would even call like that Ninja Turtles beat 'em up, Shredder's Revenge. It goes more in the direction of where Double Dragon was leaning more toward the Final Fight style. But what's interesting is it kind of keeps with the older graphical styles, which I find very interesting. And so so Double Dragon Gaiden Rise of the Dragons, my brother got it for me on Xbox. Playing a lot of that with my youngest. Like, we just have so much fun with it. And I enjoy it so much that I actually bought it again to have it on my ROG Ally on Steam. So I have it on Xbox, which I guess that's the one thing with the ROG Ally. If there's not a game that's a cloud version, and it's only on Xbox, then I can't, because sometimes there's a lot of Xbox games that are play anywhere, but not this one. But to me, it was worth buying, even though I got it, because I've been going back and forth playing both versions on Xbox, on PC. It's just nice to be able to pick up and play a quick 10 minutes. And that's what it is. It's I'm not sitting there with the ROG Ally for like hours and hours on end. It's almost like I do a task around the house, I'm done, gonna relax, play 10, 20 minutes of a game, then get reminded of another task I gotta do, or go pick someone up, or work on work or a video, and then, hey, I've got 30 minutes, and then I'll jump into another game. Another one, other than these beat-em-ups, and actually, before I move on from the beat-em-ups, okay, so, yeah, Double Dragon Neon, I went through and beat that, again, I'd beat it on PlayStation originally. Double Dragon Trilogy. Now, that's a game that came out, that's a trilogy, obviously, of the Double Dragon, but it has the... if I'm not mistaken, it's the American version of Double Dragon 3, which is called Rosetta Stone. And the game itself, like the package that is being sold of a 3-game, it's very buggy, and the menus are slow. It's kind of weird. And they're actually re-releasing all of the Double Dragon games almost November 11th, I think it is. It's Double Dragon 1, 2, and 3, but not Rosetta Stone. It's called the Sacred Stones. Which is the Japanese version, and then Double Dragon 4, which actually came out in like 2017, and I hadn't played that one yet. Where was I getting with that? Because I was playing the Double Dragon trilogy, and they don't hold up that well, but it's not like it's bad, it's just more of, there's more now you can do with the genre. Almost like with RTSs, you can go back and play the original Command & Conquer, and it's not bad in terms of like it's aged bad. It's just that now there's so much more you can do in an RTS. So there's this other one called Fight and Rage. Fight and Rage is amazing. A Fight and Rage is more of the Kunio-kun style, but they really implement the Street Fighter. There are chains of combos, and there's even training you do where you have to try to pass each training for your combos, and there's an advanced training that's just super hard. I've gotten to the last combo and I haven't been able to pull it off yet, but it's really good. So Fight and Rage, look that up, tons of fun. It looks cool too, because they actually make it look like you're playing on a CRT monitor with the scan lines and the curvature. It's pretty interesting that they have that in there. And then, yeah, River City Girls. I decided to get back to that since I beat Double Dragon Neon, even though I'm still working on Gaiden, Rise of the Dragon, just to have another game to play. Oh, hey, Talos, good to see you. And so that's that with the beat 'em ups. So another game I beat, and again, having the Rogue Ally is cool for other situations, like if my wife is hanging out on the couch or whatever, I can go over, sit with her while gaming. And then sometimes we'll do two players, even if a game isn't two players. So like her favorite game is Castle of Illusion, and the original Mickey Mouse one on the Sega Master System, and I love the one on the Genesis. And so we've been playing the remake that came out in 2012, and that is actually really really good. I think it's almost underrated. Like people don't really talk about it, but everything about it, the production value, everything is really good. And so we went through that and beat it. I think it was just yesterday. I beat the final boss. We were going back and like she'll play the final boss, die, then I'll die, and it's awesome. It's a 3D game, but it's like classic old school. Well, the game's mainly side scrolling in it, but the environment looks 3D. But like the last boss, isn't it all bosses too? Yeah, I think all bosses are 3D movement, and the last boss is pretty tough actually. And yeah, we finally beat it. Felt good about it. So those Disney games are pretty amazing that Sega was making, like Castle of Illusion, World of Illusion, Land of Illusion, even the Fantasia. That was a pretty amazing time with those like Disney games. Okay, and then lastly, Turok. Turok 3 got announced, and so I wanted to go and revisit the old Turok games. I originally put them on N64, so I got the first two. Night Dive Studios is doing the work on those. Night Dive has been doing an awesome job doing these remakes recently. So, yeah, the first Turok, you can see, I guess, design-wise where it's aged, but mechanically, it's still sound and great. And, like, the movement, too. Even when you are turning with the aim, the look, it's interesting how it's almost like there's this pivot that goes on with your head when you're turning in the world, and it kind of makes it more immersive. And it's a lot more fun than I thought. And I think what might help is the smooth frame rate. I mean, it looks excellent on the ROG Ally because the VRR and everything. But, N64 had the slowdown, the frame rates. And so sometimes when you're playing those games, the frame rate kind of gets in the way of enjoyment. At least for me it does, because I was always also gaming on PC when I was younger. So, yeah, playing Turok on the ROG Ally has been awesome. And again, that's another good one where I can just pick up, play for like 30 minutes, and get a level done. Yeah, really good time. And then I don't know if I mentioned this because I don't think I did this week, but I'm playing the Quake 2 remaster. I've been playing the Machine Games new campaign they came out with, but on the ROG Ally, for some reason, there's no cloud saves. I don't understand that. That must be something I'm missing. There's the N64 version, so I decided to go back and play that, and I forgot how good that actually is. There's something about those old school FPSs and the level design where you can kind of see how tight they are making it, where every hallway, every corner, it matters to the rest of the game. Oh, I see, Shirt Lad. Have you tried running the SD Gundam GX on the ROG Ally? Could be a fun endeavor. No. No, you know what? I don't know about that. Let's look that up real quick. SD Gundam GX. Let's see. Oh, I wonder if this was on my list of emulators, or in my emulator, because I had a handful of Gundam games. No, I'm gonna have to try that one out. And is that the F91 or Victory? Oh yeah, that's a Victory, right? Huh, yeah, I'll have to give that a shot then, because yeah, I'm gonna be going through, part of what I'm doing on the Gundam Explained YouTube channel I have is, I try to, as often as I can, go through a Gundam game to review. I forgot what the last one was, but right now I'm in between Unicorn and 0081, which were both on PS3, so, yeah, hopefully soon, I'll have a review up of those. Okay, so, other games that I've been playing, I think that's about it. I'm looking at my... Oh, yeah, Starfield. I guess we can get into Starfield. what I'm doing is I'm looking at like my gaming apps and like the latest games I've been playing. Okay, so Starfield. Here's my thoughts. I'm not a fan of Bethesda RPGs in the first place, only because the gameplay mechanics takes backseat to the narrative and story. And while the narrative and story is good in these, I'm sure, I just, when I sit down to play a game, for me, it's not to go from one place to another, talk to someone, get a quest, choose what my reaction is, go somewhere else. When I sit down, it's like, okay, what are the mechanics this game has on display that I use, and what strategy can I use to overcome them? That's like what's fun for me for gaming. So that's why if I'm talking down to Starfield, it's more because it's not my style of game and not that it's bad. I will say, though, if I was going to make an opinion about like what I think should be common among everyone is the game doesn't meet, I think, the expectations of the production value that were on display, the hype that went on for so long, because then when playing it, it just felt like Skyrim or Fallout in space. Which, again, that's not a bad thing, but I was thinking they were going to maybe move ahead forward, do something different. Like, for instance, in No Man's Sky, that's a completely mechanically driven game. It's not like narrative. It's like, okay, I have to get from this planet to this planet. I have to then create this, so I have to go mine this to create this so I can do this and that. And it's less about go somewhere, here's a story, here's what's going on. Talk to so-and-so if you want to be able to do this. Or feel free to explore. You go to explore, and you just run into someone's like, hey, I've got this. And then so it becomes more of this world-building thing, which, again, people like that. It's not for me. But the production value on Starfield is amazing. The music is amazing. The graphics are amazing. Between Xbox, PC, the ROG Ally, it looks good on any platform. It is cool. Like, as someone that likes sci-fi, I do kind of like the world that you're in with the spacesuits and what the technology looks like, and going from one planet to another, and then like kind of the background, the story. It really speaks more about humans and our past and Earth and stuff like that. But am I willing to spend my time on a game like that when I really want to go through the mechanics of things, Trying Skyrim and Fallout, like I played a few hours of each, and then after some time I was like, I'd rather get to something where my brain is constantly being challenged with some mechanically driven strategy that I have to get through. So, and then I wonder the bigger picture here with Starfield. It's because Microsoft was going through this interesting time with the acquisition of Activision, and it seemed like for the past year and a half, Microsoft has not had games, or they released duds. And I don't know if it's, on one hand, Microsoft is just kind of incompetent when it comes to their first party, because, when Halo was good, not that Halo's bad now, but when Halo really shined, it was really a third party that they just brought in-house. But whenever they make it completely in-house and there's new in-house staff, that's when their first-party stuff doesn't work out too well. But then we have the other Bethesda game that came out, Redfall. That one didn't turn out too well. And, that one was pretty interesting because it's like, well, I thought those developers would know what they're doing and come out with a great game, but no, it was pretty much universally panned. It's cool to hear that they're going to continue to work on it to make it a good game, and I think because part of that is that was an investment into the Xbox Game Pass service, so that when people have Game Pass, they have these ongoing games. So they want part of that investment, and it could be that part of that investment, what we're seeing a lot of nowadays with games, is they're being released when they're not finished. And it could have been Redfall wasn't finished, but let's have this game come out anyway. It's going to do bad because it was obvious they had to put stickers about the 60 FPS on cases and stuff. So is Microsoft incompetent with handling their first party, or is it that they're trying to play kind of dumb for the Activision merger so it doesn't look like they have hit after hit after hit? waiting for Starfield to come out, and they've had it pushed back as much as possible, whereas that Activision deal would have been gone by now. So you would have had, if the Activision deal was already done, you would have had a double whammy of Starfield exclusivity, Activision Blizzard, get Game Pass. The Activision Blizzard thing hasn't finalized yet, even though I bet it will. There's just little things going on with it. And we saw the deal Xbox made with Ubisoft. And with Starfield, though, is Starfield the game? It's because it's not going to be on a Sony platform. Is that going to be the game to get people to go with Game Pass? Or are they just going to buy it on PC, buy it on Xbox? I mean, if they're buying it on PC, it's still helping out Microsoft because of Windows. But I'm really curious what they're trying to do here, because the other element to this has to do with Game Pass, game streaming. So PlayStation is coming out with their Portal, and this is all going to come together. Bear with me. Nintendo has their Switch 2 leaks we'll talk about in a second. Another portable. We have the Lenovo Legion Go coming out as a portable. Let's see. Yeah, the ROG Ally. I'm trying to think if there's any other examples of that. That's about it. Microsoft is the only one without a portable, unless you're to consider people using Game Pass. Like, for instance, Phil Spencer saying he wants to help the ROG Ally team make sure games run well on there. Starfield runs awesome. So is it that Xbox or Microsoft needs to come out with a handheld, or are they going to bank on people using Game Pass on these handhelds? Are they going to work with Nintendo to be like, hey, Nintendo, can we have Game Pass on your service? Sony, can it be like, hey, Sony, can we have Game Pass on your platform? You know, that could be the way Microsoft gets in, just like in the 80s when there were computers everywhere, and then Microsoft's like, let's put DOS on everything. Let's not make it where it's tied into one computer. Let's have DOS on everything. Could that be the idea with Game Pass? Let's make it where Game Pass can be used everywhere. Because if not, you know, what's Xbox's platform going to be if Game Pass doesn't succeed? They're gonna have to come out with better games that are gonna make people want to buy an Xbox. But then you have PC. And Sony's PlayStation Plus isn't working out. They recently rechanged the whole thing and then upped the price just because it's not working for them. And Nintendo has a completely different way of going about it just because their games just sell good anyway. Their system sells good anyway, so it doesn't matter. So I think these times are very interesting with what's going on. I don't know if Starfield is that game that makes people have to get an Xbox or get Game Pass. I'm going to be curious to see in the next month or two what the answer is on that. I'm curious to see if Xbox is going to have an answer to portability. I mean, you could take a mobile phone and put those, you know, mobile phone controllers on, but it's not the same as something like a ROG Ally. Game streaming, too. I need to test out game streaming on the ROG Ally, the Xbox game streaming, because the PlayStation game streaming, doing it, though, through the PS5 while in the same network is amazing. No issues with that. But I'm just curious with the Xbox, because then I'm not streaming from my Xbox. I'm streaming from Microsoft servers. You know, so it's very interesting the different directions that they're taking with, you know, out of all three of the gaming platforms right now. Sony, they're pushing out a streaming service, but right now it's really streamed from your PS5 onto the Portal. You have Xbox, where they have the cloud streaming anywhere that you can download the app. And we have Nintendo, who just has a portable device. So I think an important thing an idea that Microsoft can do is come out or brand alongside something with like a ROG Ally and just have it where it has an Xbox guide button. I mean, my ROG Ally came with 3 months. That's right, it came with 3 months of Xbox Live Ultimate. I was able to just add it on to my current one. So, you know, what if it is that? What if it's like, get this Xbox branded ROG Ally, or the next PC, if it's not the Legion Go, it's another PC Windows-based handheld that has some Xbox branding on it, with the Xbox guide button. And then that even made me think the other player here is Steam, which is very interesting because that's PC, but it's very specific to things on Steam, and it's not even everything on Steam that can work. So And what's Microsoft's play there? Is it, in this I haven't even looked into. Like if you have Game Pass, if there's a game on Game Pass, can you play it on Steam? I don't think so. Yeah, that's right, because I have, there's a bunch of games that I've been playing on Xbox Game Pass on PC that I can't play on Steam because it doesn't have, like, account linking or anything. So even with something like the Steam Deck, unless Microsoft can help, like, push, like, through Steam, here's an Xbox Game Pass or Xbox Cloud app where you can stream Xbox games on the Steam Deck, that's going to be their other competitor. Anyway, I guess just talking through these things, in real time, because it's very interesting that it seems similar what all of the gaming platform holders are doing, but they're approaching it differently. And I'm really wondering, what's going to come to pass, because, it's very interesting. Well, let's get into some news, and this will be related to what we were just talking about. Okay. So, some Switch 2 specifications had leaked at, it was either Gamescom or PAX that just happened, PAX West. Does it even say in this article? I don't know. But I heard that they had some hands-on for some developers to look at the Switch 2. Oh, yeah, Gamescom. So let me read this. Let's see. Someone at Universal Nintendo's Felipe Lima now reporting that the Switch 2 will incorporate 12 gigabytes of RAM. The claim is attributed to an anonymous source who attended Nintendo's alleged Switch 2 presentation at the 2023 Gamescom. For context, the Switch has 4 gigabytes of LPDDR4 RAM, while the Xbox Series S boasts 10 gigabytes of significantly faster GDDR6 random access memory RAM. The Series X and PS5 both have 16 gigabytes of the same 6th generation RAM. So, there's that. Then and that could just be someone saying that, but that's kind of specific details that actually make sense if you're thinking of a console that is maybe almost better than a Series S or on par, or it might take, like, the RAM type is faster on an S, but the Switch 2 type apparently has more of that other RAM type. And this might have to do with a bunch of things like even heat dissipation, because it's a handheld. So, let's see. The newly surfaced rumor does not specify what exact technology the Switch 2 is meant to use, although the GDDR5 RAM found in the PS4 and Xbox One seems like a plausible guess, as Nintendo has yet to skip a dynamic RAM generation. So while having slightly more RAM than the Xbox Series S could provide the Switch 2 with limited advantages in some edge cases, the fact that its memory will likely be slower should still make Microsoft's consoles more powerful in this report. So, in my opinion, that makes sense that even if Nintendo comes out with a new console that's more powerful, it's still not going to be as powerful as what I would consider current gen for a while. And even Phil Spencer said it himself, they don't plan on making things more powerful. And really, if they were to, and that's the thing, if there was something about needing more power, if someone's a current Xbox user and they wanted more power, you could go to PCs and still use Game Pass. So I'm pretty sure Microsoft is thinking that. So the other thing was that at Gamescom, they had a Nintendo showcase showing the Matrix Awakens Unreal Engine 5 tech demo. So I don't know if you guys remember that. That was back when Unreal Engine 5 was being shown off. They had that Matrix Awakens tech demo that looked amazing, and they're showing that it can run on a Switch 2. So if that makes sense, since so many games that are in the works right now are being made in Unreal Engine 5. That's even Jedi Fallen Order, or it's Unreal Engine 4, or Jedi Survivor. And what's happening right now, it's already been announced that EA is retroactively optimizing Jedi Survivor for PS4 and Xbox Series, or no, Xbox One X and S. Okay? So think about that for a second. So they came out with an only current gen Jedi Survivor, but now they're retroactively refitting it for older gen systems. Why? Unless that's because those same specs are what's going to be in a Switch 2. So it makes sense for them to maximize that, since there's such a large PlayStation 4 install base, and be like, okay, here's a PlayStation 4 version and a Switch 2 version. Since a Switch 2 is going to come out, Switch is so popular, people are going to jump on a Switch 2 like crazy. EA is now going to be jumping into the Nintendo game more than they did before. Unreal Engine is going to be all over the Switch. So I think this really does prove more that we're getting closer to the Switch 2, and it's gonna be pretty cool because this then tells me this is how I'm gonna want to play Tears of the Kingdom for real when it comes out, because I'm sure when the Switch 2 comes out, it's gonna have a special Tears of the Kingdom release. Nintendo announced there's not gonna be any DLC for it. And that could be true for the Switch version. And when the Switch 2 comes out, there might be some Switch 2 only additions to it that might help take advantage of what the world is trying to do in Tears of the Kingdom, but doing it with more RAM, doing it with a better GPU, CPU. So I'm really excited about another Switch 2. The one rumor that I heard, I'm disappointed about, it's not going to have an OLED screen. It's going to be a typical screen, which for me, when it comes to handhelds, the ROG Ally, the Switch OLED has taught me that OLED is the way to game in handheld mode, and to feel like you're getting that same graphical experience that you would get on a big screen TV in 4K 60 FPS with a game that can handle it. And it's interesting because this is where I'm thinking that gaming does go back to be primarily handheld, because with the DLSS that's apparently going to be on the Switch 2, and where that's being used a lot for games nowadays, then you have screens with VRR, variable refresh rates. You're going to have portable games looking fantastic, where people will almost always think it looks better on a portable than on a TV, because who knows how someone's TV settings are, how far away they're sitting. And we can look at the modern state of mobile phones right now. People spend more time on a mobile phone watching things than they do on their TVs. So that is, that's where gaming is going, and I think it would be awesome to play Tears of the Kingdom on a Switch 2 with the DLSS and all that. So anyway, that's exciting news for me. I like Nintendo. And I actually do like the games that have been coming out on the Switch. It's just that with all the gaming I love to do, and part of my gaming is getting the best experience, games just don't look good on the Switch. Like, I'm a huge fan of Hyrule Warriors. They came out with the new one on the Switch for Breath of the Wild, and it runs sub 30 FPS. It was like what I was talking about before, like playing Turok on the N64. Like, it was amazing, a first-person game like this that looks good, but the frame rate was always like throwing me off, and that's exactly what's going on with the Switch when I'm playing games on the Switch. So, yeah, oh, hey, Ro, good to see you in chat. Yeah, so that's it with that. Going back real quick to some other Starfield stuff. So apparently it was the biggest launch for Bethesda, and I almost think it has to be. I mean, like Elder Scrolls, when Skyrim came out, that was huge. But then and then the Fallout games, like Fallout 4, but 76, Elder Scrolls Online, those were always like under the radar, and I don't, and it's one of those things where, again, the thing with Starfield is it's a specific type of game where people aren't getting it to get cutting-edge mechanic-based gameplay. They're getting it to get a narrative experience. People have been waiting for this. Starfield has been hyped for so long. Making it an Xbox exclusive almost creates more hype for it, because it's like showing that Microsoft really wants this to be just on their platform. And so, yeah, is that 6 million? That's pretty big. Again, I think it's okay. Oh, I love the Doom Starfield art. Again, it's like I'm glad Microsoft has this exclusive. I'm glad this game is super popular. But I don't think mechanically it's a game that's going to revolutionize or drive gaming forward. Maybe in terms of production value. And Cyberpunk, let's look at Cyberpunk. People were hyped about that. That came out, fell on its face. I don't think that's even changed gaming. We don't see a lot of people that are talking about things that happen in Cyberpunk that should be in future games. If anything, people talk about Elden Ring that way. Elden Ring is a type of game Microsoft, my dream game is From Software making a Blade open world game that's in the style of a Souls game. You know, Blade, Wesley Snipes. And it's Microsoft exclusive. Not that I care, but I'm just thinking if Microsoft really wants an exclusive that I think will kill, it's a Marvel property, a comic book. Blade, you get Wesley Snipes to do the mocap. You make it play like a Souls game. I mean, what Blade took place a lot of places, but like Detroit was the main area, and just make it where there was like this apocalypse, a vampire apocalypse, and so that can kind of help with the setting. And you're running around in post-apocalyptic Detroit, and there's vampires that are like trying to hunt down like a human resistance. I don't know. I could talk about ideas all day and never really get anywhere with them, but anyway, after Starfield, what's next for Microsoft? I mean, they have their Forza coming out, but that's just kind of like, here's the generic racing game. Here's the Gran Turismo. You know, it's, you know, I don't know. Like, Halo let me down. I'm pretty sad about Halo Infinite. I mean, they could come out with another Halo game, and they're saying that it's going to be the Halo Infinite open world that they had, but bigger and more to it, and I would be like, yes. It was just that campaign. It was almost like that was a tech demo. But I loved it. Just not... It's like, we complain about like the Assassin's Creed games sometimes, and like they're too bloated, and it's almost like, well, I wish Halo was that bloated. It wouldn't even have to be that bloated, and it still needed more stuff. Okay. Here's another one here. Free play days. So September 7th through 10th, so this weekend. There's games on Xbox that are, let's see, free to play, and they're on discount. Control, Crime Boss, Madden 24. Madden 24, sorry, but who cares? Except for the average person, not gamer, but average person that would play a game. It's either Call of Duty or Madden. And if you like football, of course. Control, I need to complete that. I played a lot on PlayStation. I downloaded it on the ROG Ally, so I think I'm going to get into that. That's probably my favorite game from that team. Why am I forgetting their name? You know, the Sam Lake guy. I'll remember it, but Remedy. There you go. But yeah, that was my favorite. I think I got bored of the way the interior looked for a while, and then Crime Boss, that just looks crazy. That's the picture of it right there. That I need to actually just try it, just to try it. Okay, some other news real quick. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem to get video game spinoff. Okay, that new Ninja Turtles movie came out. It's pretty good. It's more of a kids style movie than I really cared for it to be, but that's okay. And they just came out with the Shredder's Revenge DLC from Shredder's Revenge from last year, and that's fun. That's not necessarily a kids game. Kids can play it, but it's made for, you know, any gamer, especially people that like those old beat 'em ups. And then the problem is problem is kind of harsh. This game is actually being made by a developer that makes games that are like what is that called? Like Paw Patrol, PJ Masks. They make all those Nickelodeon kid games. So it could be that this game they're coming out with is really just a commercial for the merchandise for kids to, you know, for younger kids to play a Ninja Turtle game. So, but at the same time, we're getting that Ronin Ninja Turtle game that was announced. So I think it's like what they're doing with Sonic, where I feel like and it's smart. It's like, make a game for that older audience and that younger audience. It's very interesting how they're doing these very tightly focused games of the same IP, but for different audiences. I'm gonna have to look up some other examples of that. Ninja Turtles does that. We're just talking about Sonic does that. Yeah. Oh yeah, and then they have that Mutant Mayhem pizza scented controller. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that seems cool, but I don't know. Rogue is saying, yeah, dude, that's how it is at my work. The guys there only talk about playing sports video games. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. It's interesting now. I mean, I would even say my oldest He plays a lot of video games, but it's like specifically Madden, specifically Valorant. It's like the competitive sports type things. Uh, I mean, he plays other games, but I think he's more of a competitive. He plays baseball, so so me and him actually don't talk a lot about different video games because he's into totally different types of games. Rogue, I used to be heavy into racing games, but after GT6, I didn't care much anymore. Yeah, I used to love playing racing games. I don't know what happened, and I want to say for me it changed. Even though I played through all of Forza Horizon 2 and I loved it, like by the time 3 and 4 came out, I'm like, okay, but it was when Burnout Paradise came out. They made Burnout open world and they kind of scaled back the crash mechanics in a way. And then I think, yeah, I just stopped playing racing games. I don't know. I wonder if it's one of those things I was talking about earlier in the show about beat 'em ups and about like RTSs where there's some games that they age in a way, not that they're bad, but that gameplay mechanics have moved on, so it's harder to play those older games. Or it's harder to play games that are still based in those old, because yeah, there's this game on Xbox I found called Drift. I think it's just called Drift. I don't know. It's just a badass sports car racing game at night, and it's all about drifting. And it's like, it was fun, but I'm like, well, is this all it is? It reminds me of that joke of NASCAR about just driving in a circle the whole time, and it's like, is that all it is? I don't know. I kind of wish they figured out how to get racing games to come back. The one that I loved that I don't know why it didn't do any good was Drive on PlayStation 4. That changed racing games for me, but then it didn't do well, and then they just killed it. Now, I thought that was, and didn't they even have the VR for that too? Yeah, that was an interesting time. I don't know why they killed Drive. Maybe it's because they already had Gran Turismo, and that was the start of gaming budgets kind of getting too high. Yeah. All right, so, you know, that might be it for today. I don't know if there's any other esports center coming to Lakeland as multi-billion-dollar industry booms. Esports only works if something becomes esports on its own. You can't make esports. I think we've learned that lately with a bunch of games, including that Gundam Evolution. So, oh, you know what? Here's some interesting news. So speaking of Gundam Evolution, so that's getting shut down, and on this one Discord server I'm a part of, you know, people were talking about how, like, oh, we'll never be able to play it again. And I brought up in there, it's like, well, you know what, really, at the end of the day, anyone could actually play any game. If it's popular enough, people are going to come up with ways to play it. And I got a lot of pushback on that for some reason. I'm like, well, that's just how it is. And just the other day, my son needed help installing something on his computer, and I'm looking to see what it is. And it's this thing called Nova Fortnite, to where you can download a client that allows you to play any season of Fortnite with all the skins unlocked. And then tons of people are playing. And I was like, wow, that's pretty amazing. And it just proves even further that if a game has existed, there's a way to play it at all times. If a game's not popular enough, it's probably going to be hard to find a playable version with a lot of people. And that might prove then really how good, or I forget how relevant Gundam Evolution was in the first place. If, you know, Bandai shutting down the servers later this year, if no one's making a, and Talos is bringing up a good point, UC Go. So the Universal Century Gundam Online, where that came out, I think in the mid-2000s or late 2000s, I forget when exactly, or early 2000s, I don't know. But it's still running. We have people that are keeping it going because it is popular enough for that. 2006, awesome, yeah. And yeah, Talos was helping me with downloading it, and I even logged in, and I haven't played it since, but I logged in, I was able to move around, and then I messed up the resolution, but it was really cool to see that stuff still exists. It was shut down in 2007, yet keeps coming back. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think when it comes to games shutting down, back to my point, you can't make something esports. It will become esports on its own if it's worthy of it. Just like you can't make a game based off of another game and think it's going to work. Usually that's the charm of the original that made it work. Like GoldenEye worked as a first-person shooter. Halo worked as a first-person shooter. Call of Duty, they all played differently. But any other company that tried to come up with a first-person shooter is like they're just trying to ride that wave instead of making the game their own. And that's one thing I like about Starfield is that you can switch from first-person to 2 different third-person views, and one's a wide view that reminds me of when I'm playing, I always bring this up, Sniper Elite 5. I think that's paramount when it comes to like the intersection of mechanics and world. And yeah, I almost feel like if the Sniper Elite 5 gameplay engine was within the world of Starfield, it would be a lot more fun for me. But anyway. Yeah, I think that's it for the news and what I've been playing. Hope you guys enjoyed this. And really, my plan is every week I will continue to talk about what I've been playing, talk about the news, give insights into the industry. I have over 30 years of knowledge of following the industry. I'm 40 now, but like, I was first playing games with the Atari, and it wasn't until the Sega Genesis that I realized like video games are super awesome because of Sonic. And I feel like I just have so much information to give, so I'll be continuing to do these. But yeah, thanks all for watching, and we'll talk later. Have a good weekend.
Bluecast.